enjoying Big Lick Comic-Con?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of the best I've ever been at, definitely for me.
Great.
Well, yeah, it hasn't stopped. No break. I had no chance to even talk to my handler. To Libby.
Yeah.
It's just right there.
Wow.
From 10 o'clock this morning.
Do you notice the difference between before the new series came out and now X-Men 97 is out? Has there been a resurgence?
That's my favorite.
And yeah, well, the interest is definitely back again, big time. And probably, with the amount of people that are constantly. I mean, I loved the 5 years we did the old show. The old show. It's the only one we had until all of a sudden we have 5 new episodes. No lack of anything new happening in those episodes, are there?
I'm not saying anything about the 5th episode, but that was. Does anybody seen the 5th episode?
I guess I'll never ever again be able to say, "Back off, Gumbo." No, it's out of the way. No, it's out of the way, Gumbo. Or he only spoke to him very seldom. Wolverine. He'd be always in a rush, and Gambit would be in the way, and he'd just go by like, "Out of the way, Gumbo." Either that or "Back off, Cajun."
Not saying anything.
I'll never be able to say that again.
I did not say anything. Cal's allowed to say what he likes. No spoilers. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. Speaking of which, Cal, I loved, over the years when I was younger watching the X-Men animated series, I loved Wolverine's one-liners. I loved the one-liners.
Oh yeah.
Have you got any favorites?
And he had the best one-liners.
He did.
And he had the best lines, period.
Yes.
I was talking to some people today about when he met Captain America. You know, Wolverine's like 5'3", tough as nails, and definitely tough as nails.
Yes.
When I had to read these lines, I just couldn't stop laughing in the studio because he meets Captain America, and he's doing like a play-by-play in his head, so that as you're watching it, he said, "So here I am in France with headers, goose steppers all over the map." And he's guiding you along, and then Captain America saves his life. He's in a fight with a bunch of the German Nazis or whatever, and Captain America's big shield comes slamming through and saves him. And Wolverine gets up and says, "Thanks, Bob." And then he says to the crowd in the back of his head, "I couldn't believe it, Captain America, just like I pictured him. Got stars and stripes and all." And he turns to him and says, "That's a bit much, isn't it? Don't you think fatigues would have been a little less obvious?" And then later on, as she's saying, "What's that made of anyway? It's got an itch." We're talking about material. Wolverine's talking about material.
I love that that's what Wolverine is thinking of. He's like, "Oh, this."
Yeah, he says, "You wouldn't catch me wearing something like that. What's that made of? It's got an itch." Captain America's like, who is this knob?" And he gets to the top of the hill, and he's been given these things to help scale the cliff, and they get up to the top. And keep in mind, back then in the Second World War, Wolverine was not the Wolverine that we know. He had no adamantium, there was no claws. And he gets up to the top after using these things to scale, and he says, gives them back to Captain America and says,
It's not.
"These things could come in handy."
That started in the 90s.
Love it so much.
No,
it started in the 90s.
And then the dumbest line, the very first episode when they're out looking at the mansion for Jubilee, she's gone, and Storm, Beast, Gambit, Cyclops, Aurora, Storm, yes, like that, Storm, Rogue, they're all looking for her. They're all gathered in a circle looking around the mansion, and Wolverine, of course, he's never with the rest of them. He's up in a tree, and he looks down at them and says, "Oh, you sure make a lot of noise." He jumps down, and I love this line, just blew me away. Again, he's huge, and he's adamantium this time all over his body. You can't hurt him. But his heart is so big and he's so lonely. I gathered that from him, that he just needed some love and some attention. So he said, and Storm says to him, "So did you find the girl?" And he says, "No, the sun went cold outside the house. Got bit by a dog too."
Yeah.
And I went, when I went into the studio, I went, what? Got bit by a dog, you poor thing. Did it hurt you? Because he's just like, got bit by a dog too, if anyone even cares. The rest of them, it's just unbelievable. Big heart.
The first time, back in the 90s, when you guys all got together and you were going to start recording for the X-Men, the animated series, you guys obviously didn't know what was going on, you didn't know how big it was going to be.
No.
But now coming to X-Men 97, what did you learn from the first time around that you brought to the new series? Was there any knowledge that you brought from that 90s series to this one?
Yeah, I brought the knowledge that I know Wolverine. I've been doing him for 5 years. And by the way, when we did the first series, I got called for the audition. I had never done a voiceover. I was a singer, and I was like the singer in Canada, did all kinds of commercials and stuff. And they asked me if I'd be interested in auditioning for a cartoon. And I was like, oh wow, everybody wants to do a cartoon. Well, when I said cartoon, they said, this is not a cartoon. This is an animated series. Okay, stupid? I said, oh, sorry. And they said to me, well, so, I said, who is he? And they showed me a picture of him, like a pencil thing, and he said, oh. He said, he's 5'3", tough as nails, would die for his best friends, for his friends, period, and would defend, even to the cost of his own life, he would do anything to help out his friends. And I said, wow, okay. And I said, who do you hear him sounding like? And they said, immediately they said, Clint Eastwood, sort of like that approach. But I said, Clint Eastwood, you would never hear yelling. They gave me a line, and I read the line, and I looking at this line, I went, this line has to be yelled. And I've never heard Clint Eastwood yell anything. It's just like, go ahead, gritted teeth and Clint Eastwood. And they mentioned Steve McQueen, and I like that because Steve McQueen's a shorter guy, very small, in his heart, like a small guy, and said very little always, like Wolverine. And, so I like that reference, and that was it. I went, wow. So then I thought of, I'm just sitting there, and like I said, I was a singer and stuff, and I thought of, because they said the gravel thing, okay. So I thought of Wolfman Jack. Anybody remember Wolfman Jack from the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and Midnight Special? He hosted it, whatever. And Wolfman Jack, baby, coming at ya. But he was a disc jockey, famous beer, So I put a little bit of that in so this is the first line that I read in my audition, having never done anything like this before. But it was just like it was meant to be, like in Eric and Julia, Eric's book, who was our showrunner and stuff, and responsible for getting it on the network. Said it's just like everything happened. It's like we got the right people somehow just for the right part. So this is the first line I had to read. I'm in Toronto, and they're all from LA, New York, directors, writers. And the line was, which I couldn't believe. All right, you egg-sucking piece of gutter trash. You always did like shoving around people shorter than you. Well, I'm shorter. Try shoving me. And their jaws just dropped. They went, holy crap. Quick, give him some more lines. And I read lines for the next 10, 15 minutes. And then they let me go home. And then they phoned me the next day.
Love that. Funnily enough, I can't imagine Clint Eastwood saying that line. I could not imagine it.
Oh my God, he never swore. There was no swearing allowed.
I mean, over the years, we've met lots of different fans that have touched you. They were talking about,
back to your question.
Sorry,
so
yeah.
When I approached X-Men 97, of course, I've been doing it.
Yeah.
I am him. I became him, and very protective of him, of the character, because he's mine. And so now I got new directors, voice directors and stuff, and they're unbelievable. And again, they're in LA, and with the new technology and stuff, so I can see them in LA, and we're in Toronto. And I was sort of ready for this, and they said, so we started reading the script, and I read it, and the first thing she said was, can you do them a bit lower? And I had listened to I have been for years, but I listened to some of the old episodes, and I knew exactly where the timbre was. Being a singer, I knew what key this voice was in. So I said, can you do it a bit lower? And I said, can you play it back? So I played it back. I said, no, I can't. That's as low as he goes. He doesn't go lower than that, because it would sound like this. And that ain't Wolverine. Oh. And she said, oh, okay then, okay. Well, just move on from there. I said, good. That was the end of that conversation. So I brought that with me, because it was just sounded weird to do it lower. I actually tried it to do it lower.
Well, you know the character best.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It would sound really weird. One of the best things about the X-Men I found as a kid when I was watching it growing up was it had very adult themes. It was a very adult series, not a cartoon series. Were there any themes when you were working on it that you related to particularly or touched you that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, Nightcrawler episode touched me. I loved that one, and I loved. I was just talking to someone about Cold Vengeance. When he went up with the Eskimos and became like their strong man, and the fishermen, and he upset some of the regulars because they thought they were the tough guys and the strongest. And no, Wolverine became that, not intentionally. It's just he loved these people, and no one knew who he was. And he meets, and of course, Cyclops. Sabretooth shows up again. And Wolverine's trying not to be an X-Men, not trying, to use any of his powers or anything, but he has to now. And then in that episode, he says, darling, talk to me. Is there no peace for me, even here? And he does that, so frustrated that here's Goofhead again, Sabretooth. And, as he tries to blow up the rest of the town and all that stuff. And then they're celebrating at the end. Sabretooth is, gone. And Wolverine has to talk in a regular voice, sort of. It's unusual because we never thought of that when he's not being angry or vicious or whatever. And the chief says, the people are happy, and it's all because of you. And Wolverine says, I know, I feel at peace. And the chief said, no man knows peace until he finds it in his heart, and whatever, etc., etc. And Wolverine says to him, I wish I could tell you. He didn't want to tell about the X-Men and all that stuff. And the chief says, you will find it in your time, my friend. And Wolverine just looks at the chief got up and left, and Wolverine just says to the camera, you called me friend. And he just loved that, because he just wants to be loved. It's like that kind of thing.
And I think that's why so many people love that character, because there's layers there. It's not just a wee angry man.
Yeah,
he's not just a wee angry guy.
Yeah, that's good. The other favorite, like I said, Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
And when I went to grade 9, 10, and 11, I went to a junior seminary. I was going to be a priest. I'm 12 and a half, so it's like 14. Well, that didn't happen.
No, you were sure.
Obviously, an Irish family, Irish Catholic family, grew up as an altar boy, the whole thing, in Latin in those days and stuff, and it was ingrained in us. And so this episode, when I had to say lines like this to Nightcrawler, so where's your God now? And he's trying to calm Wolverine down. Look at this, you see with different eyes. This is just bricks and mortar. The human soul can be rebuilt. It's with different eyes. And he picks out some pieces in the Bible for him to read whenever he has that time and peace. And at the end of that very episode, Rogue and Gambler are off having a coffee or something outside in France. And Rogue's walking on the street and a newspaper hits her in the face, and it's in French. It says, a new church opening, l'église, whatever. And she goes in the door, and there's Wolverine on his knees in front of the altar, reading what Nightcrawler had given, the excerpts. And he's talking in a normal voice for him. And he keeps reading that, and the camera turns back to Rogue's face, and she's got a tear coming down her eye. And that's the way they went to fade into black. Those kind of episodes. Just so he can show his heart.
And I think it's important when I was a kid, I think it was important for me to watch stories like that, and not have them sugarcoat everything. It's really important because that's real storytelling.
Yeah, and they didn't. They were confronted with that, the writers, when they were trying to sell the whole idea to Fox ever, and they said, well, Morph will die in the second episode. But you can't do that. They said, oh, we can, and we will. We said, we are not going to write down the children, to the kids. Sooner or later in their life, they will lose their dog, their aunt, their uncle, their mom, their dad, and they'll have to deal with that loss and that whole thing. And they did that. And it's true. The only reason they created Morph, the writers, this is per Eric, and his wife, big writers for the initial series. The reason they did that, they only created Morph so they could kill him. That's, and that's weird, but that's why we brought it into the show, so we could show that to the kids and teach that sort of lesson. That's
real emotions. That's real. Yeah. That's real characters. They're really building layers, which is why I think we're all sitting here today, and we love it so much.
Yes. And Eric Dewald wrote about previously on X-Men.
Yes.
The title of his book.
I've interviewed Julia and Eric many times. They're the nicest people.
Oh, they're wonderful.
They are wonderful people. We're going to hand it over to fan questions in just a second. So if you have a question, make sure you put your wee hands up and don't be shy.
Did you set your wee hands up?
Yes.
You're such a squad. It's just great.
I can't believe I called Wolverine a wee angry man. Sorry, Wolverine.
Your wee hands up.
But he is a wee angry man most of the time. Anyway, can I just see a show of hands? Do we have any questions? Yeah? Let's just go to fan questions right now. Okay, so